What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with another video, and today Ty and I will be doing our Week 11 college football picks and preview. Lots of ranked matchups this week. Should be a great week of football, and every week gets closer to the final rankings of the college football playoffs. So we'll get right into it here. And Ty, I beat you by 3 last week. As we got our new system in picking every ranked team, every ranked game, and the new setup as well. You're still got that 3-game lead on me though, with a few weeks left.
Yeah, I've been slacking lately. My basketball results so far are probably going to look a lot worse than this. So hopefully I can pick it back up this week.
And then the only team on a bye this week is BYU, who's pretty much kind of out of the college football playoff running at this point. They need a lot of things to happen to even have a shot, but nonetheless, still a great team and deserves that 14th ranking. And then tonight, we'll start with the Pitt North Carolina game. Pitt, has looked really good out of the ACC with just the loss last week, or not last week, the week before. I got them to 7-2. And, North Carolina last week with the upset over undefeated Wake Forest at the time. So I believe this will be a really good game tonight. But at the end of the day, I still got to go with Pitt just because they're at home, and I don't think North Carolina can pull off 2 upsets back to back.
Yeah, North Carolina's coming off that big win, so this could be kind of a letdown game for them. It's tough to get right back up on a Thursday with a short week, obviously. So it is a matchup of 2 NFL quarterbacks, though, so it should be a fun game to watch, but I like Pittsburgh here.
Friday, we got Cincinnati going against USF, and I think this is going to be a blowout here. Pretty self-explanatory. You got Cincinnati just 1 spot out of the playoff, and a USF team that has 2 wins against even worse teams. So definitely a blowout here for Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be for them. They've struggled the last 3 games here, so they need some style points to build their playoff case here. So I know that line's 23.5. I might take Cincinnati because they have no choice but to really just blow them out here.
And we'll move to the Saturday games here. Alabama favored by 51.5. I'm definitely taking the New Mexico State spread because I feel like that's just an insane spread. I don't think I've ever seen a spread that big. But then again, it seems like Vegas always knows, and it'll somehow be around that number. But nonetheless, we're just picking the game, who's going to win, and obviously Alabama should win this one.
I'm just gonna go ahead and stay away from that line. It's almost too enticing. I feel like they do this on purpose. Sometimes they just want you to take it, and then you lose somehow. Alabama's probably gonna win this game 63-0.
Then we got our Michigan Wolverines here going into Penn State at noon. Obviously, we're both rocking with Michigan here, but this is a must-win game for Michigan, not even just for this year, but for years to come, to really set the tone. And, if Harbaugh can keep winning these big games when they need him most. It'll be interesting to see do you know if Corum's going to play or no?
I don't. Unfortunately, you get no updates from Michigan on their injuries. Typical. So we'll see. Obviously, this game, the line's even. But outside of that, I mean, these teams basically resemble each other. They both struggle to score in the red zone. They both have a really good defense. They both have an average or slightly above average quarterback. Michigan, their key to winning is limiting Jahan Dotson. You can't give up a big play like they have at Penn State in the past to guys like KJ Hamler and Saquon Barkley. So limit that, force them to score on some long drives. And I think Ojabo and Hutchinson will be able to get a turnover or 2. And I think they should win this game.
And another game, if you're into the ranked matchups this week in college football playoff implications, is Baylor and Oklahoma. Since Oklahoma made the change from Spencer Rattler to Caleb Williams, this has been a whole new Oklahoma team. You could say they were down 10-0 to Kansas at halftime, and you were like, what's going on with Oklahoma? But they came back, won that game, and it's kind of like March Madness at this point. You just got to win in advance and hope someone else loses. But this is a must-win game for Oklahoma, to really jolt them, I would say, up to the top 5. Just because, you have all those one-loss teams ahead of you, and they don't really have a big win yet, and this would be a big win on the road. And I think they can do it, so I'm going with Oklahoma.
Yeah, this would be a big win, and it'd be by far their best win. I saw the other day they beat 2 teams with winning records out of their 9 wins. So obviously their schedule gets a lot tougher at the end of the season. Baylor has come really close to beating them a few times recently, but they just haven't done it. And I think that continues here, unfortunately. I think Baylor should have dropped a lot farther in the rankings.
And then you got Auburn and Mississippi State for all the SEC fans out there. Mississippi State was ranked 17th last week. They fell, and now Auburn's at 17. Nonetheless, these teams are still really good teams. Just unfortunately, they're in the SEC, and some teams are going to have to be average in that conference. But I think if Auburn can win this game, I believe that Auburn may be able to upset Alabama and finally not have them in the playoff. But I think Auburn really has to win this game, to have that confidence going into the Alabama game in a few weeks here. So I'm going with Auburn.
Yeah, I agree. This is definitely big in them if they're going to beat Alabama, get some momentum going in there. But if they do beat them and it's not out of the question, that could end up with Texas A&M going to the SEC championship. So things could still change. I like Auburn to win this game, and they could give Alabama some trouble down the road.
Here you got an interesting Wisconsin team that's ranked 6-3, but at the beginning of the year, everyone wrote them off. After starting 1-3, now they've ripped off 5 straight wins, and I expect them to get to 6 here over a pretty bad Northwestern team.
Yeah, I just expect Northwestern to not score at all here, maybe a field goal, but Northwestern runs the ball. Wisconsin doesn't let you run the ball, so it doesn't look good for Northwestern here.
And Utah's actually the same thing as Wisconsin. They started 1-3, and they've won 5 in a row as well. And I'm pretty much just saying the same thing here against a terrible Arizona team. They're going to get it done and get 6 wins in a row.
Yep, Arizona's very bad. Look for Utah to possibly upset Oregon next week.
And at 3:30, you got the number 1 team in the nation in Georgia, and it's been blatantly obvious this year that Georgia's been the best team. Ever since they beat Clemson in week 1, you were like, okay, what are you going to really get out of these teams? But since that week 1 matchup, Georgia has been the clear front runner. And even everyone in the college football playoff knows that Georgia needs to be won. And then after that, it's really just a crapshoot. But in this game, I think Georgia is just going to dominate, and I think we will get 2 quarterbacks playing in this game because it will be a blowout.
Yep, I agree. Georgia obviously is a cut above everyone. I think they're the only team so far who hasn't really shown a weakness yet, hasn't really had a close game. So Tennessee's improving, but Georgia should still win pretty easily.
And this week, we got a huge game for Ohio State. Last week, Purdue upsetting Michigan State. And about a month ago, they upset Iowa, too. Could this be their 3rd upset of the year? I say no, just because Ohio State is better than both of those teams that they've played. And it's also at home in the Horseshoe, which is also a tough place to win, nonetheless, for any team. And Purdue, I think they're going to be a little hungover from that win. And I just don't think they can get it done here.
Yeah, to beat Michigan State, I forget his name, Aiden O'Connell, Purdue's quarterback, threw for, I think, 530 yards. He's going to have to do about the same thing if they're going to compete with Ohio State, because obviously Ohio State has the same weakness on their defense as Michigan State. They have a bad secondary. So it's tough to throw for over 500 yards 2 games in a row. So I think Purdue's going to come back down to earth here, and Ohio State will win pretty comfortably here.
And you got Minnesota and Iowa. Our first game that we disagree on here, And I think Minnesota will win this game, just because Iowa really hasn't looked like the team, they were at the beginning of the year. Yeah, they're 7-2 still, but they've slowly started to regress as a team. And this Minnesota team with PJ Fleck at the helm, they're still getting it done, not getting the credit they deserve at 6-3. I know it's definitely going to be a low scoring game, and I think Minnesota can go into Iowa and get the win.
Yeah, if you like to watch games with lots of points, I would probably turn to a different game. This game is going to be pretty ugly. Obviously, Iowa has had a lot of low-scoring games. Minnesota lost 14-6 to Illinois last week, so this could be maybe first to 17 wins. But I got to take Iowa, but this could really go either way. Both of these teams are really trending down right now, so it's a big game for both of these teams to get back on track.
We got UTSA entering the rankings here this week, and they're 9-0 this year against 1-8 South Miss team. It's pretty self-explanatory here. You got to go with UTSA as their magical season continues.
Yep. If Cincinnati loses a game, they could get in a New Year's Six bowl. So that could get interesting, but obviously I'm taking them.
And we got Michigan State against Maryland. Let's see how Michigan State responds after the first loss of the year. And I think they're going to respond well. State still played really good last year, but there just wasn't enough time, for them to catch up. It felt like they were playing catch up the whole game. And what's really going to happen is the next 2 weeks after this game, they'll be 9-1 heading in the two biggest games of the year for them against Penn State and Ohio State. But we're just talking about this week, and I think State's going to get it done.
Yeah, well, Purdue kind of showed you the blueprint on how to beat Michigan State. You throw the ball early and you just continue to throw the ball. So Maryland loves to throw. They have a talented quarterback, so I look for them to throw it quite a bit in this game. Maybe Taulia Tagovailoa puts up a big game, but they just don't have the talent to come away with a win here.
I'm going with Texas A&M in this game strictly because I think this team will be in the SEC championship at the end of the year. They've beat Alabama, and they're the only team that's done that this year, and it feels like in the last 5 years, they're the only team that's done it too. This Ole Miss team, though, nonetheless, Lane Kiffin and Matt Corral, still a great team, but someone has to lose this game. And I just think that Texas A&M on the road can get it done. And, this team could even squeak into the playoff consideration. If they beat Georgia in the SEC championship, let's say down the road, how do you not put a two-loss Texas A&M team who's beat the best team in the country and the second best team in the country, technically two number ones at the time. And I don't know, but that's a long time from now. And this week I could be wrong. All that could, go out the window here if they lose this game. But I have faith in this Aggie program, so I'm going with Texas A&M.
Yeah, I like Ole Miss here. I think they've just been a little disrespected here. You have 2-loss Baylor and 2-loss BYU ranked ahead of them, which I thought was a little head scratching from the committee. And then they're home dogs in this game against a team who I think is almost equal to them, maybe a little bit better. But I think Matt Corral can have a big game on this A&M defense here, and I think Ole Miss can outscore Texas A&M and get a big win.
And this week you got a very interesting game for Notre Dame on the road against Virginia, who's been pretty solid this year at 6-3. And for Notre Dame, it just seems like they squeak by every week. You could say, oh, it's typical Notre Dame or whatever, but this year it just feels like something's off. But nonetheless, their credit is they've lost to Cincinnati, who's 9-0. And, if they win that game, let's say, could this Notre Dame team be ranked in the top 4? It really, they could be a top 4 team in the country. And I think this week they finally will prove that, they're a top 10 team right now ranked and win big here.
Yeah, I know everyone loves to hate on Notre Dame, and obviously being a Michigan fan, Notre Dame not my favorite team, but I'll give them their credit. They really don't lose these games, even going on the road at night. Obviously, once they get to play the Clemsons and the Alabamas, it gets ugly, but typically they get through these tough road games, and I expect that to continue. It might be closer than that 5.5, but I just don't see them losing to this Virginia team.
Another game at 7:30 is you got a big game here in the ACC. Pretty much deciding who will go to the ACC championship. And you got Wake Forest coming off their first loss of the year, and NC State, who's looked really well this year. I think Sam Howell and or no, not Sam Howell, Sam Hartman and company are going to come back and get a win here, a much needed win, to keep the college football playoff hopes alive, and to get themselves to the ACC championship.
Yeah, this is kind of just a coin flip game here. Obviously, Wake Forest favored on the line. FPI likes NC State. You could really go either way, but I'm going to go with the home team here. Sam Hartman has just been playing really well his last few games. Obviously, they lost last week, but that offense put up 55 points, so can't pin that on him. I think coming back home, coming off a loss, they can continue to put up points and win this game.
And you got Arkansas versus LSU here. Arkansas coming in last in the rankings at 25th, but I think they will win this game. And LSU, it's kind of been a dumpster fire this year. Ed Orgeron saying he was leaving, and that pretty much kind of just dictated how their season went this year. Still could get into a bowl game, be bowl eligible, but they got to get 2 more wins here. And I just don't think they're going to get a win this week. And Arkansas is going to win this one.
Yeah, a lot of people would say LSU is improving because they competed with Alabama last week, but I just think that loss was a gut punch for them. It seemed like they just emptied out everything to beat Alabama. Coach O's last time playing them, and they just couldn't get it done. So I think that kind of gives them more of a hangover effect for this game. And Arkansas is a pretty good team, and I look for them to continue to climb the rankings here.
And you got TCU who upsetted Baylor last week against Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State's got to win this game to go into that Oklahoma State game at the end of the year. Having a chance to get into the Big 12 championship. I think Oklahoma State will win this here just because TCU, big win last week. I think they're going to, be slow out of the gates, and I think Oklahoma State is going to take advantage of that, and Oklahoma State will pull this one out.
Yep, got to go with Oklahoma State. TCU does like to play spoiler here. You saw that last week. They typically play some teams close in November, but that defense for Oklahoma State is legit, and I look for them to shut down TCU here.
At 10:30, going into the night games here, the late night games on the West Coast, you got Oregon and Washington State. And I think this one's pretty obvious, going with Oregon here. Washington State, though, still has been pretty good this year at 5-4 after losing Mike Leach. But Oregon has looked really well this year. Unfortunately, that Stanford loss is going to be a hurt on their resume come the next few weeks. And they're going to need Stanford to keep winning games. But this week, just this game, I think Oregon will win here.
Yeah, Oregon should win pretty comfortably as long as they're not looking ahead to next week too much. But they go to Utah next week against a really good team. So we'll see if they can get through that. We'll talk about that next week.
And our last game of the week, you got Nevada and San Diego State. Pretty much the winner of this game will go to the Mountain West Championship. And I think San Diego State can do it. And Brady Hoke will have a new job next year at a better school. He's been a surprise kind of out of nowhere. After his firing at Michigan, he kind of, just took some coordinator jobs, finally got another head coaching job, and he's doing great again. Great for him and great for the San Diego State program. And they're going to get a win here.
Yep, should win another close game. Seems like they play a lot of close games. Brady Hope, maybe TCU bound next year. That could be potentially a fit for him. But I like San Diego State here in a close game.
And that's it for this week's picks and preview. We're getting close to the college football playoff, and we will be doing our bowl pick'ems as well, so you guys won't have to worry about us not doing that. But we'll be doing that weekly as well. And until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.
She never called back.